Alright everyone, we start off today with another roundup as far as the Mar-a-Lago FBI raid, Trump, declassification, etc. Several links in the description archived, of course, you can follow along. The warrant and inventory list were released yesterday. The DOJ putting them out, but first Trump put them out, actually through Breitbart, not redacting things, and that led to a resulting liberal meltdown. Oh my god, the names of some of the agents and other figures involved weren't redacted. Oh no, this is going to put a target on their back. You told Trump that if he was innocent, he would not have a problem with the release of the warrant and the inventory list. Not only did he allow the DOJ to do that and say, fuck it, I don't care, he also did it himself. Who cares what form it was released in? It's the full documentation that he was provided with. It's no onus on him to redact anything. So I guess he's innocent. You know, for about 48 hours there, that was the big talking point. Well, Trump has a copy of the warrant. If he's innocent, he will release it or have no problem with the DOJ releasing it. He was told this by literally every commentator on the left, and the entire left-wing legacy media was opining effectively the same thing. Well, it's out now. If you look through the warrant and inventory list, it's not particularly impressive. What is meaningful here is that several provisions under the Espionage Act were the impetus behind the filing of the warrant. Now, supposedly you have to have a big pile of evidence for this to happen. Dude, you've had investigations into Trump at the highest levels of intel and the FBI and everything else already in his presidency. You remember the Steele dossier? There was no evidence. The evidence was that a former spy had bounced material back and forth between legacy media outlets and the FBI and other groups in order to build a dossier for Hillary Clinton at the time that was never true. Much of it has already been debunked. The rest has at least never been evinced. And it made its way through the FBI, through Sturzock and Page and others, on a particularly partisan basis. We know this due to their text messaging with each other when they were having a fling, I guess. Then it was rubber-stamped by Rosenstein, who claimed under oath that he couldn't recall whether he even read the fucker before he rubber-stamped it. That's how that particular investigation into the Russia thing began. There was no evidence. It was entirely manufactured. It was completely fabricated. Why would I not think that this was the same thing? Where somebody within the Mar-a-Lago, another informant or plant or whatever you want to call them, was bouncing information back and forth between other groups in order to build a case to raid the Mar-a-Lago. The fact is that I think this reeks of desperation. I think that they understand that once they start this case, if they don't find something actionable and can't charge him, that will cause uproar among the left wing. If they find something and they do charge him, it causes uproar among the right wing. Either way, it throws a huge monkey wrench into U.S. politics, causes huge social alienation and various attendant problems. It's not something that a sane person would want to engage in. Thus, I think that this is out of desperation. I think they're desperate to nail Trump. The J6 committee has failed. The Russia investigation was a farce. The Senate Intel investigation cleared him. You've been looking into the fucker for years and years now, and you've never found anything, and so this is sort of the last desperate gamble to try to find something actionable. We'll get into, by the way, in our live stream later, why there is a catch-22 scenario, legally speaking, if there is a legal case against Trump, where all hell breaks loose because of the ramifications of declassification capabilities. But yes, the liberal meltdown began almost immediately. They pivoted instantaneously from their prior statements, some of which I posted. If Trump needs to release the warrant if he's innocent, he releases it, and all of a sudden the WAPO gets an inside scoop on there being nuclear secrets in the cache of material that was removed. The problem is the inventory list doesn't say that. We don't know what the source is. It's an unnamed source familiar with the investigation. And WAPO has done this before. The legacy media has done this before. What I said at the outset of this raid, and had said for years before, pertinent to these investigations, the biggest risk is the legacy media leaking out false material, and because everything's classified, or claimed to be classified at least, by the judge, by the DOJ, even if it's not, even if Trump had declassified it, they don't have to release the material to the public or even say what it's generally about because it's top secret. Well, we can't tell you what's in these documents, but we assure you that Donald Trump didn't declassify them. How do we know this? Because Orange Man bad. That's basically it. By the way, there's also the third link here as to PolitiFact. They were queried on the concept of Donald Trump having effectively limitless declassification abilities. Read that if you like. There's a little bit of a lie-by structure there. They rate it mostly true, actually, which means that their summation of it is mostly true. The fact is that the president does have the ability to declassify anything at any time simply by speaking about it. That's because the president is the chief diplomat of the United States. If you were to hamstring the president by saying you can't talk about anything classified with Macron or with Putin or with anyone else, it would make it impossible for them to have a normal conversation because they would inevitably run afoul of classification rules. It's kind of the point. It points out here the legislature can't stop it, EOs can't stop it, the judiciary can't stop it, the president has effectively complete unilateral authority. I see some people saying, well, that doesn't extend to nuclear secrets. First, that's not clear. Secondly, that's bullshit, and you know it, because there's no mention of that within the warrant or within the inventory list. The inventory list is extremely vague, and if you look at the warrant itself, it's effectively a blanket warrant for literally anything that Trump had access to that was filed during his entire presidency. This is the definition of a fishing expedition. This is not a specific warrant for... This is not the judge getting queried by the FBI and they say, look, we think that there are documents here related to Area 51. We're very, very worried they're not being kept safely. They are declassified or they're undeclassifiable or something. And we need to go in and retrieve them. This is a big public security concern. That's not what happened. That's the way a warrant is supposed to operate, generally speaking. There's probable cause of a crime, and you have a specific reason for believing that. Here, there's no specific reason. In a court of law, and here's the caveat, here's the catch-22 we'll get into deeper later. If Trump is on the stand, he can simply say, look, I declassified all these things. I had them. I discussed them while I was president. They're declassified. I'm allowed to store them. They're no longer classified material, regardless of their composition. Garland, or whatever, can come out and say, no, you didn't. And they can assure the public that that's the case. You know, subsequently a jury hears that as evidence. But they can't actually provide what was supposedly not declassified because it's classified. It's a catch-22 scenario in which it's basically a legal stalemate of sorts. Very strange situation, potentially. Again, I'll get more into this later. PolitiFact's take is mostly true, on saying that it's mostly true that Trump had the power to effectively do whatever the fuck he wanted with classified material. It would be totally true, their write-up, if they said it was totally true, because there is no limitation on that. Then they go in their own article and they start talking about Trump sharing material with the Russians, which never even fucking happened. It didn't occur. I don't know why it's even pertinent to the article. It's pertinent to a years-old, discredited, totally debunked witch trial investigation from yesteryear that is already over. It has nothing to do with the Banana Republic break-in. It has nothing to do with the witch hunt that you have now. It's a totally separate scenario. That was when he was president. This is pertinent to his actions as a former president, honk honk. But that doesn't mean that he didn't declassify the material. Even in private conversation, which he can claim executive privilege over the ins and outs of, he can say, look, yeah, this top secret document, I was discussing it with some official. I discussed it with my son. He could do that too if he really wanted to. And I'm not going to tell you about that meeting because it's privileged information. By what methodology is the DOJ therefore going to be able to persecute and prosecute him? If you bring a legal case against Trump over this, it is explicitly for the purposes of meddling in the political situation in the United States. I think they're doing this mainly to hold this over the head of the MAGA Republicans in the midterms through their vast AstroTurf faux outrage campaign, knowing full well that if there is a case against Trump, it's going to be nigh on impossible to actually prosecute him. Again, former president, by then probably presidential candidate. That's really going to be a fucking problem if they charge him at some point if he's a candidate for a major party. Spurious material, overbroad warrant that doesn't even specifically list anything. You've got some of the inventory list is like miscellaneous top secret documents. Let me ask you something. Is the miscellaneous top secret document speculative? That is, that you went in, you don't know that they're top secret, but you specify that you think that they are, so you put it on the inventory list and take the cardboard box full of documents with you pertinent to the raid. Is it speculative, or do you know that there is such material there because Trump was cooperating with you for 4 fucking months? In which case, why did you actually need a raid? You knew the documents were there, they were forthcoming about the content, nobody cares. Which one of these is the case? Either way, it's not a pretty sight, legally speaking, at this time. That's about all. Peace out.